and we are the two soldiers who will be performing this demonstration for you all today. Now, of course, we're going to be going over the Soldum sidearm of the soldier during the 1880s and for many other soldiers throughout the entirety of the world during the 19th century and even into the 18th century. That, of course, being the bayonet. Now, the bayonet here, this is essentially this is what is known as a socketed bayonet. So this particular style of bayonet goes actually all the way back to the early 1700s. Essentially, it's a design where it can be slotted just at the front of your rifle, so it goes around the barrel, so you're still able to fire your weapon, but you still have this essentially the spear point on the end of the rifle to use it as a makeshift spear if need be. Now, it is this style of weapon that will be used by the U.S. Army all the way up into the 1880s, which we're representing here today. Now, with that being said, though, this bayonet here, these ones in particular are actually old Civil War style bayonets that are going to be used when they adopt the new Springfield 4570 rifles. So they simply just heat treat these bayonets to the end of the rifles to fit them, and thus they're able to still utilize these old Civil War style bayonets. But not only that, this bayonet is also a rather tried and tested design. The reason why it's being used for over 100 years is simply because, well, it's a pretty good design actually for a bayonet. It has a triangular blade, so not only is it a rather strong blade, it also creates a triangular shaped wound in the target that it stabs. So quite simply, it will actually create a rather nasty wound for any surgeon to really take care of. It is this style of bayonet that would be used throughout almost the entirety of the U.S. Army's military history. But with all that being said, though, by the 1880s, they are still utilizing this bayonet, and here at Fort Mackinac, the 23rd Regiment of U.S. Infantry that is here at the fort would still be utilizing bayonet training, still actually practicing with their bayonets on a regular basis here at Fort Mackinac. And of course, without further ado, we are going to step aside and we are going to show you some of that bayonet drill here today. So with that being said, since Tristan is now at the position of attention, we are going to give the command, fix bayonets! And with that, he simply just brings the rifle to the side and fixes bayonet on his own time. With that, we are about to start bayonet training. Now, the first command that he will be given to start the bayonet training is the command, guard. This will bring him down to a low fencer stance, simply stabilizing himself as well as preparing himself for any defensive or offensive maneuvers he might be doing. Now, he will basically be starting off with actually a training with a series of parries. So a parry would essentially be when an enemy soldier is coming towards you and thrusting his bayonet towards you. A parry will essentially swap that bayonet out of the way and basically keep it out from stabbing you. So some of these parries will be consisting of different kinds of parries that will be taught by the soldiers in bayonet drill, such as tierce, parry, guard, secoon, parry, guard, court, parry, guard, butt, parry, guard, prime, parry, guard. And now the idea is that once you have utilized one of those parries to push the enemy bayonet out of your way, you can then follow up with that parry with a thrust into your enemy. So some of those thrusts they will be taught will be thrust in tierce, guard, thrust in secoon, guard, thrust in court, guard. Now, your enemy, though, is not always going to be a thrust away from you, especially if you are going to be in the offensive. They would also be taught a series of lunges. Lunge in, tierce, guard. Lunge in, secoon, guard. With the teaching of course, these different parries, these thrusts and lunges, they would also be taught a series of movements. When you are in close combat, you will not always be stationary. So they'll be taught movements such as advance, front passade. And if you get a little too close, retire. Rear passade. Carry, arms. And once they have learned these different parries, thrusts, movements, and lunges, they will then, for the final step of their training, they would then be donning fencer's gear and given essentially wooden muskets with whalebone bayonets with little rubber balls at the end of them, and they would spar against one another to really put those skills they learn into practice. However, also by the 1880s, while the U.S. Army is still doing their bayonet training, they are also going to be encountering a problem. That being is that, well, the bayonet is starting to become rather outdated as a weapon. Because the rifles that we're using, the Springfield 4570, well, these aren't the old muskets that were originally made when the bayonet was first introduced here to the militaries of the world. This weapon here can now be reloaded instead of from the muzzle end, from the rear here through this trap